A flooding crisis is unfolding in many southern Alberta communities tonight. Thousands in Calgary are under mandatory evacuation orders. Parts of Okotoks are underwater. The Army has been called into High River. Most residents in that town have been told to leave. Roads in Bragg Creek are being chewed away by the river. Much more on the emergency and what the weather will bring us next. Ahead. Good evening and welcome to all of our global viewers across Alberta tonight. We begin with our very special broadcast, State of Emergency, Alberta Floods 2013. A disaster of historic proportions is unfolding right across southern Alberta. The flooding and damage is unprecedented. This amazing video from YouTube of a highway in the Crow's Nest Pass area in the Bragg Creek area, a Quonset washing away in raging waters. There's absolute devastation for many communities. Heavy rain causing flooding that has led to mass evacuations in and around Calgary. Rivers are running high, roads are washing out, and many bridges are in danger of collapsing. There have been many dramatic rescues throughout the day, among them a helicopter flying someone here you see right now to safety. This happening in High River. Well, we have reporters in all of the areas under siege tonight. Jill Croteau is in one of the hardest hit regions. That is the town of High River. Our Gord Gillies is in the southwest here in Calgary near the Elbow. And to the west of us is Global's Jamie Dahl in Canmore. And things are getting worse. There are states of emergency and road closures in more than a dozen communities in southern Alberta. We have reports from Bragg Creek, Black Diamond, Turner Valley, and Longview. Gord Gillies is live along the banks of the Elbow River. And Gord, thousands of people who live in several affected communities can't go home tonight.
Well, Linda and Scott, at 5 o'clock, there were 6 communities impacted. We've added to that list. And let me get to the numbers right away so we can tell everybody that the mandatory evacuation now includes Discovery Ridge, of course, to the west of Calgary, Mission, Rideau, Stanley Park, Elbow Park, Roxborough, and then within the last half hour added to that, Cliff Bungalow, Earlton, and Victoria Park. This is ground zero for the calm before the storm, if you will, because they're building a berm again like they did in 2005 right behind me here on Elbow Drive. It's a steady stream of trucks coming in, dumping a load of soil, and then they're building the berm. Right now, that's about 50 loads worth. There are 36 trucks in Calgary being used, and I just talked to some of the officials here who say we'll probably be calling in more trucks, learning about berm building tonight. What they're doing here is laying down some plastic, as you can see on the road, and as that berm moves through, they'll cover it with plastic, cover that, so if the rains do come, and we expect them to come soon, they will, in fact, protect that. They won't fall apart once they get the berm going. Police in this parking lot beside me at Safeway. 15 minutes ago, there was about 30 cops on cycles. They are now fanning out to the different communities I mentioned, telling people that they need to get out. So, Bindu Suri spent some time today talking with some of the folks impacted by this emergency situation.
It's deja vu for Janessa Torgerson. Her house has flooded before, but this time the threat is much greater.
I don't actually know where to start. I mean, like I said, I'm on the basement floor, so I have everything down there. It's like my little home, so I don't know how high the water is supposed to go, so I'm just planning on taking everything with me.
She has no choice. The city of Calgary says evacuations are mandatory for several communities.
Please identify yourselves to emergency responders going door to door. Residents will not be allowed to return to those communities after 3 p.m.
We're looking at flood projection for the Elbow River that is likely going to be at least double of the impact that we saw in 2005.
Elbow Drive has been shut down at 4th Street Southwest. A berm is being built to keep the rising water at bay.
If this water comes higher than 05, those people down there and the Rideau Roxborough people are in trouble again.
This is the first time since then a local state of emergency has been called for the city of Calgary. City officials say they're preparing for the worst.
We're doing this as a preventative measure, recognizing that things are going to be insured and can be replaced, but your pets and your people, you can't be replaced.
Get your medications, get your pet, get your valuables, and be prepared to leave. And when you're ready to leave, we're not asking for you to wait for somebody to knock at the door. When you are ready to leave, if you have some place to go, please go.
Even Mayor Naheed Nenshi is offering advice from Toronto.
Stay away from the riverbanks, stay safe. If we need assistance with volunteers and sandbagging and berming, we will let that information be known. But for now, stay as safe as possible.
Despite the city's efforts, some are disappointed, especially those who were promised it would be different the next time.
There's nothing I can do. The basement's going to flood and I'll have to rebuild. I just don't know how much water I'm going to get this time.
Bindu Suri, Global News.
I just learned this afternoon, you can see over my shoulder behind me, there's also apartment complexes and condos. They also are under the evacuation alert, so they too have to get out of their places. Police telling me that just a few moments ago. So down here, they're preparing. And are they ever scrambling as well a little farther down from us at the Calgary Zoo? We know St. George's Island is an island, and the water there is running hard and fast. Zoo officials and city officials and everybody there doing what they can to prepare for what's already arriving and what's also on the way tonight. So we are here where they're preparing. I'm standing in the sunshine, it's hot. The contrast is absolutely bizarre, but the situation is severe and it's real. We'll have an update for you again on what they're doing a little later in the show.
Thanks, Gord. We'll see you shortly. Well, it is really an alarming situation in High River tonight, where most of the town is under a mandatory evacuation. The rushing waters of the Highwood River flooding pretty much everything low-lying. Jill Croteau joining us now live. Jill, it sounds like things are so bad the Army has actually been called in.
Yeah, that's right, Scott. The military reinforcements have been called in. Authorities from neighboring towns and villages have also been dispatched here, all in a desperate attempt to get these 13,000 residents to higher ground to safety. You mentioned it off the top. All of the town is under a mandatory evacuation order. Everybody is trying to scramble to safety. There are some folks who are still at this hour stranded simply because the Highwood River burst so fast and so soon that they really didn't have enough warning to get out in time. They've been using combines to pluck people to safety, helicopters. People are being carried away in the buckets of bulldozers. They are trying to basically just get them somewhere safe. This has been going on all day. The water has been just flowing. The streets have literally been turned into rivers. Sandbags were being filled at one point, but it seemed almost as if it was in vain, because as soon as they could get them to the front doors, they just had to drop them and go.
Where were you guys rescued from?
The co-op.
What was happening there?
It's totally surrounded by water. The only way we could get out was from the combine.
It just started going full tilt and it started coming over the window well, so I just grabbed my laptop, got in the truck, moved to higher ground, but higher ground's starting to become low ground.
There's many houses like that. I don't know what they're doing.
We were going to take our cars and get out, and by the time I packed a bag, it was going full blast. We couldn't get the cars out, so they're just sitting there.
So because the entire town has been evacuated, the emergency evacuation center has been moved to Heritage Point. The Highwood River is expected to crest around midnight. The situation's still very grave here, and it is expected to get worse.
Thanks so much for the update, Jill. Well, we are keeping a close eye on things, and another weather system is threatening to bring more rain. Paul Dunphy joins us with more on that. Paul?
Yes, it's continuing to rain heavily to the west of us, and a rainfall warning remains in effect to the west. It's been dropped for the city of Calgary. We're not expecting as much rain here, but as you can see in the Doppler radar, there's still lots of rain in the foothills and the mountains to the west of city of Calgary. And we do have some systems that are going to wrap through into the city of Calgary tonight and tomorrow as well. Wherever you see the brown, the orange, the red, the yellows, That's where we have the heaviest rain and possibly thunderstorm cells as well. Green is pretty much just rain. The city of Calgary had a system go through about a half an hour ago, and as I said, we expect we'll see more of this through the night and through the day tomorrow. As I said earlier, we are no longer under a rainfall warning in the city of Calgary, but it remains in effect to the west, and that's the real problem. Temperatures are going to remain below seasonal as well. Our high tomorrow only about 14. More coming up, and I'll tell you how much rain we expect across the area in a bit.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Well, we've received some unbelievable images, photos from viewers today. This one coming in earlier tonight from Chris. Main Street, Turner Valley, underwater tonight. Devastating for residents and business owners there.
And in that community impacted by flooding, there's been a crisis of a different kind. A leak of potentially deadly sour gas in Turner Valley caused evacuations and forced other residents to stay indoors. Our David Boucher has more on that emergency and the severe flooding in that area, beginning with Black Diamond.
Many longtime residents here in Black Diamond say they have never seen flooding quite like this. The problem is the Sheep River. This is what many Black Diamond residents woke up to. The Sheep River breached its banks, flooding the main road in town and low-lying communities. Several businesses and about 40 homes were swamped. The town brought in heavy equipment in an attempt to divert the river. It also activated its emergency management plan to assist people displaced by the floodwaters. The oil field arena was quickly turned into an emergency reception center.
We receive them here, provide them with blankets, provide them with towels, food, and if there's a need arises that we have to break out cots, we'll break out cots and turn it into a hotel for the night or the 2 days or whatever's required.
Turner Valley, just down the road from Black Diamond, declared an emergency due to flooding and high water. Longtime residents say they've never seen it this bad.
I have nothing to compare it to because this never happened before.
A bigger worry in Turner Valley, however, was a sour gas pipeline that ruptured, releasing deadly hydrogen sulfide gas. An emergency alert was issued and a large portion of the town was evacuated.
It was a line that was not in use. That's what I found out. H2S is nasty stuff. Real nasty.
A town official says the pipeline, owned by Legacy Oil and Gas, ruptured after being struck by debris being carried down the raging river. Crews responded quickly and managed to contain the leak. Some homeowners were advised to stay indoors. In Longview, Stars Air Ambulance responded to reports of 2 adults being stranded on the Highwood River. A woman who was last seen standing on a trailer has not been located. However, a man was found on a flatbed in the river. He was rescued by a second helicopter involved in the search. And 4 horses trapped by the rising river were rescued by their owner.
I had to come down and show them where the higher ground was. The water wouldn't have been much higher, it would have been a mess. It's pretty touchy right now.
There's no word yet on when residents will be allowed back into their homes. That very much depends on the weather and the river.
Thanks, David.
We'll take a look at these images from our Global One News helicopter over Okotoks, the Sheep River running high, fast, and dangerous. The town has declared a state of emergency and evacuations are underway. Several streets are sealed off and there is already flooding. Many areas are under mandatory evacuation, including the campground and River Park. Several businesses also shut down. The Sheep River has not crested yet. Also under mandatory evacuation tonight, people who live in Bragg Creek.
The damage there is astonishing, and that's where our Doug Basin spent the day.
The Elbow River thunders down on an unsuspecting Bragg Creek. The trading post reduced to rubble in the roiling water. Residents say they had little warning of the devastation to come.
When I came down at 6, there was a wall of water with big trees coming down the river. The hamlet, White Avenue, promptly flooded. We have never seen this, ever, even in the very, very worst times.
Half an hour before it hit.
No warning then?
No warning, and nobody knocking on our doors, nothing. It just was that quick.
Emergency responders direct traffic away from the danger. A fuel tank for a new gas station is uprooted by the powerful current, and gas leaks into the already murky water. A woman fears her business, a bakery near the town center, will be lost for good.
It's all in my store. I'm flooding right out.
How deep is the water?
It's up
to there.
Scary?
Yeah, very.
Yeah, and it's strong. It's coming down at a good force.
People in Bragg Creek are used to flash floods, and that may be part of the problem. No one thought it would get this bad.
There are a lot of homes right on the river. The wetlands have overflowed the roads. People did not take it seriously and have put themselves in danger.
We're about half a kilometer from the center of Bragg Creek. You can see the water behind me, very fierce, very high as it crosses the road. There are logs all over the place. You have to be careful when you're driving. In fact, we were just informed by Rocky View County that this area is now under mandatory evacuation. We're going to have to leave. You can see these beautiful homes close to the river completely flooded. It's likely this will be a multi-million-dollar flood.
Decided to head ship while I could, and didn't realize it was so deep at the last part of the four-way stop there, and then just caught the current as far as I could.
A chopper rescues stranded residents trapped by the water. Volunteers ride heavy machinery over washed-out roads to help others, but one needs rescuing himself.
He told me his forklift was floating down the river. I had people phoning me crying, thinking that he was gone, you know, because his forklift was there, it was running, and there was no dirt.
The entire town, over 600 people, are evacuated.
I've been out here since the mid-70s, and this is 100 times worse than the 100-year flood.
As of late afternoon, the elbow had risen almost 5 meters and had yet to crest. Doug Vason, Global News.
And MD officials now say the elbow through Bragg Creek appears to have crested just a few minutes ago. Another note, Rocky View County has set up an emergency shelter for flood victims at the Springbank Park for All Seasons. That's on Springbank Road. 2 firefighters were reportedly swept away in the river near Bragg Creek this afternoon.
We can tell you that we do know that they have been rescued. At this point, we're just awaiting confirmation on their condition. Well, lots of trouble in the neighboring community of Redwood Meadows. Water overflowing the banks of the Elbow River. RCMP stopping cars and letting them go one by one on the bridge over Highway 22. The kids' Kiwanis camp underwater. Lots of sandbagging going on and rocks going up to create a berm. The golf course also shut down and several yards are flooded. And again, as we've been talking about, a lot of incredible video has come in today, and much of it from Canmore.
That's where the raging waters of Cougar Creek have washed out roads, and backyards in the town are in ruins. Our Jamie Dahl has been on top of this story from the start.
Well, this is absolutely unprecedented here in Canmore. What I'm standing in front of right now is Cougar Creek, which looks like a raging river. During the summer, there's not even water here sometimes. It's just a faint trickle, but it is alive today, and it is wreaking havoc on this town. There are plenty of homes that have severe damage. Others are at risk of being damaged, and many homeowners, all they can do is just sit on the sidelines here and watch and wait and hope.
Right at this point, I'm starting to have a big hole in my stomach about all our stuff, and I'm just waiting to see whether that's going to get sucked down or not.
So crews are working very hard. They're trying to keep this bridge from collapsing. It is one of 3 access points into the east side of Cougar Creek. That area, that neighborhood has been completely evacuated. They're taking people on buses and they're bringing them to safety tonight.
Right now, we're trying to get everyone out of that neighborhood. People who have pets can put their pets in a carrier or on a leash and bring them with them for the evacuation, but we want to get everyone out.
The road, Trans-Canada Highway, both east and west of Canmore are shut down. We're told could be even a couple of days before those reopen. Carrot Creek, just past the park gates, is flooded over. It's spilling over the Trans-Canada. Carrot Creek, just west of the park gates tonight. Canmore is a major tourist town in Alberta. People come from all over the world. There are dozens and dozens of tourists that are stranded in hotels tonight. They could be there for days, some without power, some without fresh water because the roads in front of them have been washed away.
The power lines were going down and the creek's pretty much washed out, the roads.
We don't have power right now. No, can't even get fresh water. The water runs on pumps, so there's not even water coming up.
Also, we're being told that many cell lines are down. Internet is very shoddy, so some people, if they cannot reach their loved ones, some phone lines have been set up at some of those evacuation places, and they're in for a long haul tonight and tomorrow. Let's just hope that this rain stops, but unfortunately it has just picked up again. Exactly not what the people here in Canmore need. Back to you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Well, our flood coverage continues. Coming up, we're going to have the latest from Crow's Nest and the Lethbridge area.
And the floodgates have been opened at the Old Man River Dam. Downstream, thousands are on alert. Some unreal video coming out of Canmore tonight. This was posted on YouTube earlier today and shows just how powerful the floodwaters are. Many backyards have been destroyed in the town, and hundreds of people have been trapped by the road closures.
The Lethbridge region also being walloped by wet weather. Water levels there continue to rise.
Global's Mike McKinnon joins us now from Lethbridge, where, Mike, the worst, unfortunately, is still to come, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Scott, Linda. Actually, earlier this afternoon, the level of fear was much higher. Some were worrying that bridges would be washed out, that actually kids were let out of school early to be picked up. We have been keeping an eye on the Old Man River the last few hours, and the latest expectation is that it will crest sometime around 8 o'clock this evening. State of emergency is still in effect for Lethbridge, the county of Lethbridge, as well as Fort Macleod. For many residents here, it's been a day of cleanup from last night's storms. And however, for others, they're preparing for what's still ahead. Packing up and carrying out. In Lethbridge's Old Man River Valley, much of Thursday was spent clearing out Fort Whoop-Up and Helen Schuler Nature Center.
Right now, at our peak, we had close to 200 people here.
The low-lying areas would be the first hit if the Old Man River spills its banks. Hundreds of artifacts and exhibits being removed to avoid having to replace the irreplaceable. The floodgates opened Thursday afternoon, all 5 at the Old Man River Dam. Alberta Environment says it hasn't happened since 2005, when parts of Lethbridge looked like this.
Everything that the river can hold basically is being let go at the dam at this point. Of the Old Man Dam, and what our objective here is just to make sure we monitor and we're able to control where the access is for the public and that people don't put themselves in an area of danger.
Meaning all roads to the river valley blocked off, residents of Lower Paradise Canyon being evacuated. As for the county of Lethbridge, many remain on alert while still cleaning up rural properties.
Pretty scary, actually. You can see we had trees go down, and we actually had a power pole in one of the corrals that got hit by lightning, and so yeah, there was a power line hanging down in the corral. Thankfully the power was off.
The same for some businesses. Employees starting their day wading through the water. To them, it's nothing new.
This is the 3rd time since the flood or the big rainfall in 2005 that our shop has been, and Frank's has been flooded out.
While that water continues to drain, all eyes remain on the Old Man River, which could hit its highest level in years. And as for residents who are evacuated at this hour, you're encouraged, if you're around the city of Lethbridge, to go to the Fritz 6 Senior Center. If you're a little bit closer to Fort Macleod, you're asked to go to the community hall there on 25th Street. And we'll keep watching as the Old Man River swells this evening.
And we have breaking news now. The city of Calgary is now saying between 75,000 and 100,000 people may have to leave their homes over the next several days because of this flooding. The city says the evacuations will be done in stages. Bowness and Sunnyside are now just being added to the list of evacuees. We will bring you more on this throughout the news hour tonight. Once again, as many as 100,000 people are going to be forced from their homes. And the problems continue as well as you head across the BC border. Heavy machinery is being used to clear roads covered in mud in and around the resort town of Fairmont. A lot of Calgarians spend time there. Residents there are rushing to sandbag the area. Several areas of the Kootenays are also flooded, and many river campgrounds are underwater and already evacuated.
Well, we can't tell you strongly enough how important it is to stay away from the flooded areas. Several major highways are closed indefinitely, and you need to check before you head anywhere. Here are some of the major road closures. Highway 1, the Trans-Canada, shut down in several spots, including through Canmore, and because of mudslides at Golden. The 1A also closed west of Calgary through Exshaw and the Bow Valley Parkway. Also, Highway 40 shut down completely off the Trans-Canada into Kananaskis country. Also, Highway 22 in several areas, and Highway 93 west of Castle Mountain. Again, you must check on road conditions and closures because they are changing by the minute.
And the rain that is causing all of this came down hard and fast, and unfortunately more is on the way. Paul Dunphy joins us, and do you have some numbers as to how much rain we've received?
Yeah, I have a few numbers for you. It looks like the heaviest stuff, no surprise, was to the west of the city of Calgary, and to the south as well. Livingstone to the southwest, 150 millimeters there. The Canmore area, 126. Banff coming in at about 36 millimeters. The Nordegg area, 101. The city of Calgary, and these are all up until 3 o'clock this afternoon. City of Calgary, 38 millimeters. Now, there are still warnings in effect, rainfall warnings in effect west of the city of Calgary, and across that region we expect to see another 30 to 60 millimeters of rain. There's a view of downtown Calgary from our live camera in the Calgary Herald building right now. We are 16. We're partly cloudy. We have had some showers in the last little while. This is the area under the rainfall warning once again. We'll just zoom in a little closer to give you more detail on which areas are under the warning. Obviously, Banff, Canmore, but also Cochrane, Carstairs, Airdrie, up through the Old Sundre area, Caroline, Rocky Mountain House as well. Those areas, as I said, could see another 30 to 60 millimeters of rain. This is all because of a stalled low pressure center. It's stuck basically right here. The flow around this is, of course, counterclockwise, and that's drawing the moisture in off the Pacific and pushing it uphill toward the foothills and the mountains. That's what we call orographic lift. That makes the air that much more unstable and squeezes out much more rain. Now, we expect the rain is going to continue pretty much unabated to the west of us through the overnight. We'll get some breaks here in Calgary, but it's going to be continuing to be heavy along the foothills and the mountains off to the west with those heavy amounts that we talked about. But Calgary will be getting a little bit of rain and an occasional thunderstorm as well. Do have some thunderstorms up to the north and to the northeast of us, as well as one that just went through about 45 minutes ago and is out around the Cochrane area right now. Now, this is the latest model run on the precipitation amounts that we expect, and it's down from what we saw an hour ago, at least for the city of Calgary. We expect by this time tomorrow afternoon to have only picked up about another millimeter of rain, while about another 22 is on the way for Canmore, and unfortunately 19 for the Banff area.
Our reporter Jill Croteau is continuing to monitor the crisis situation in High River tonight. We'll return there live just ahead.
Also, our Jamie Dahl has been in the thick of our flood coverage in the Canmore area. Just how wild it got, that's coming up. Our coverage continuing this evening. We're going to go back to Gord on the banks of the Elbow.
And Gord, the city has just announced as many as 100,000 people may be forced from their homes over the next several days here because of the flooding.
That's incredible, Linda. Yes, the numbers keep growing. Initially it was 6 districts, and now it's been expanded. Let me give you the list again to show you folks, because some new ones have been added to that list. We have the first 6, Discovery Ridge, Mission, Rideau, Stanley Park, Elbow Park, and Roxborough. Around 5, Cliff Bungalow, Earlton, and Victoria Park were added. Stampede and Inglewood unconfirmed, but we also think Bowness and Sunnyside added to that list too. So you're getting up to 100,000 Calgarians impacted now. It's unbelievable. Calgary police have been called in from all districts throughout the city to fan out and knock on doors to make sure people are safe. They've been joined by search and rescue teams we've seen down here as well in the Safeway parking lot I'm in. And believe it or not, the truck that just rolled in a second ago, this is the TAC team, is also been pulled in today to try and help out. So they had the big truck there helping out. So it's unbelievable. They're getting the word out as best they can, because folks, we need to be prepared for what's coming. At 5 o'clock, Reed Feist talked to one family who lives along the Bow, a guy saying he's going to stay and try and contain the house from there. Well, he also spent some time talking with somebody just behind me here as they sandbag their home and hope for the best.
We are monitoring water levels here along the Elbow River, and in the last hour or so the water level has increased. You could kind of see some of the grass here along the Elbow River. Now it's completely submerged. Mind you, it is not as bad as 2005 yet. At 2005 levels, the water was all the way up to the top of these stairs. The homeowner, he moved in just after 2005. Thankfully then he didn't have any flooding, and he is going to stick this flood out, he says, to make sure the sump pumps work in his home.
I'll be manning the fort, making sure the sump pumps are going okay, and if anything needs to be done, get the boys over here and get it done.
Now again, we expect river levels to rise again between 3 and 5 this morning. The water levels could increase. The mandatory evacuation order does remain in place for these 6 communities along the Elbow River. There are evacuation centers set up at the Acadia Recreation Center and also the Southland Leisure Center. If you do not have friends or family to stay with, city officials say right now you should make plans for at least 24 to 72 hours here as the water levels continue to rise. Back to you.